Gemini, one wrong decision can cost you everything you built. Gemini, have you ever felt like your quick thinking, your ability to shift, adapt, and stay ahead might suddenly not be enough? That maybe, just maybe, the decision in front of you isn't just a choice, it's a test? A fork in the cosmic road, where one path leads to expansion and the other, quiet destruction masked as opportunity? This isn't a coincidence. This message found you because you're walking through a karmic window, one where the sharp edge of Mercury, your ruling planet, is slicing through the noise to deliver a divine wake-up call. There's someone pulling strings behind the scenes. Not in a way that screams danger, but in subtle, almost beautiful ways. A chance that looks too aligned, a promise that mirrors your dreams just a little too perfectly. But here's the truth. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every yes is meant for you. And if you silence your inner warning just to avoid discomfort, you risk losing more than just time. You could lose your essence. Welcome to Esoteric Wisdom. I'm Elizabeth, your guide. If you've ever felt split between intuition and intellect, this space is for you. Subscribe to stay in tune with the cosmic currents that shape your story. Like and comment below if your soul's been whispering warnings. Because in this moment, Gemini, discernment isn't just power, it's survival. Shall we go deeper? Chapter 1. The Gemini Trap, when curiosity becomes a cage. Gemini, you were born with a mind that hungers, restless, brilliant, insatiable. You are the messenger of the zodiac, ruled by Mercury, the swift-footed planet of communication, thought, and motion. But what happens when that endless curiosity leads you into a maze instead of a breakthrough? When your need for stimulation opens the wrong door? Right now, the stars are warning you of a moment where your natural duality, your gift of seeing two sides, of holding multiple truths, might turn against you. You're standing at a fork in the road, but unlike before, both options shimmer with possibility. One is truth dressed plainly. The other? Deception in silk. And here's where it gets dangerous. See, Mercury is currently in tension with Neptune, the master of illusions. That means what appears clear-cut may, in truth, be veiled. Conversations, contracts, relationships, anything that asks for your yes right now should not be answered on impulse. Gemini, you know how to dance between ideas. But now, it's not your intellect that will save you. It's your ability to sit still long enough to hear the quiet no behind a dazzling yes. Let me tell you about Natalie, a Gemini artist I once worked with in her late 50s. For years, she craved a breakthrough in her career. She was offered a dream opportunity, a gallery show in a city she loved, backed by a charismatic sponsor who promised her the world. She said yes within hours. The contract looked fine. The money was decent. Her name would be in lights. But something in her gut felt off. A small flicker of unease she ignored. It's just nerves, she told herself. Geminis always overthink. Months later, after pouring everything she had into the work, she discovered the gallery had exploited her name to promote someone else's brand. Her art had been buried beneath a glossier campaign. Her voice, muffled. The sponsor vanished. And the worst part? She'd seen the red flag. She just didn't want to seem paranoid. That's the Gemini trap, believing you can outthink a bad situation. But intuition isn't a theory to analyze. It's a signal to obey. You, Gemini, are in a phase where the universe is testing whether you'll listen to your inner compass or get seduced by mental gymnastics. This isn't a time to be clever, it's a time to be clear. Let's look at the astrology. Mercury is not just your ruler, it's your mirror. When it aligns with deceptive Neptune or strict Saturn, it creates tests of discernment cloaked as conversation. The wrong words said to the wrong person. The wrong idea shared too early. A casual post that becomes a permanent regret. These aren't grand betrayals. They're micro missteps with macro consequences. And you may feel it already. The fogginess. The second-guessing. The conversations that start one way, but end somewhere entirely different. It's not your imagination. You are walking through what mystics call a mirror corridor, a time when life reflects back to you not just who you are, but how easily you can be distracted from who you are becoming. So what do? Pause.
Breathe.
Practice sacred stillness, even when your mind races for the next idea. Journal your thoughts before you speak them aloud. Observe who asks you for access and why. And most importantly, when something feels off, don't talk yourself out of it. Gemini, you're not meant to stay stuck. That's not your nature. But sometimes, stillness is your liberation. The trickster energy that governs your sign is powerful, but it must be integrated. Otherwise, your greatest asset, your mind, becomes your deepest undoing. The decision before you may seem simple. A job offer, a new friendship, a reconciliation. But behind it, there may be a web, a hidden motive, a cost disguised as convenience. Don't be afraid to say no. The truth doesn't always sparkle, but it always protects. You are not here to please everyone. You're here to live in integrity with your highest self. And sometimes, that means declining what looks good to preserve what is good. This is your moment to choose wisely, not with fear, but with clarity. Because, Gemini, the mind is a brilliant tool, but in times like these, only the soul knows the way forward. Chapter 2. The Echo Chamber. Who's really speaking in your mind? Gemini, if Mercury is your ruling planet, then conversation is your sacred art. You are fluent in subtext, nimble with words, and quick to decode the energy behind a sentence. But during this karmic window, when Mercury is tangled in a tense cosmic web, it's not just the outer voices that need discernment. It's the ones inside your own mind. Right now, there's a storm brewing within your internal dialogue. The voices of past lovers, childhood critics, well-meaning mentors, even social media trends, they all start to echo louder. And if you're not vigilant, they begin to disguise themselves as your own thoughts. You might hear, "Don't be so dramatic. You're overthinking again." This is your only chance, take it. But is that you, Gemini? Or is it the world's voice rehearsing its fears inside your psyche? Let me share a story, this time from Carl, a 62-year-old Gemini who had spent most of his life as a school administrator in Florida. After retirement, he finally began painting again, a childhood dream he had shelved decades ago. He had talent, no doubt. He even gathered the courage to apply for a local gallery showing. But days before the submission deadline, a voice crept in. "You're too old to start now. No one takes amateur painters seriously. Stick to what you know." He canceled the application. Later, he told me, "I don't know why I did it. It felt like I was talking myself out of my own life." When we unpacked that moment, it became clear it wasn't his voice. It was the voice of a high school teacher who once told him, "Artists starve. Be practical." That sentence had lodged itself deep in his mind and waited, like a dormant virus, for the perfect moment to reactivate. Gemini, you are vulnerable to this. Not because you're weak, but because you're open. Your mind is a magnificent receiver, constantly scanning, adapting, reflecting. But when Mercury is under pressure, your mental field becomes porous. Old narratives seep in. You begin to confuse past programming with present instinct. This is why, during this cycle, one of the most powerful things you can do is audit your inner dialogue. Ask yourself, whose expectations am I trying to meet? Is this desire mine or someone else's? Who benefits from my silence or my decision to stay small? And then go deeper. Use your gift of duality. Not to play devil's advocate with your truth, but to uncover the buried beliefs you've mistaken for truth. Astrologically, we're entering what some mystics call a mercurial clearing. It's a period where thoughts that no longer serve your evolution rise to the surface, not to torment you, but to be released. Think of it as a software update. You can't run your future on outdated code. But here's the twist. Some of these outdated thoughts will come wrapped in nostalgia. A voice from an old friend. A message from an ex. An invitation to revisit a place you once called home. And in that moment, you'll feel the gravitational pull. You'll remember who you were when those voices were louder. You might even miss that version of yourself. That's okay. Honor the memory. But don't confuse it with destiny. You're not here to become who you were. You're here to become who you were meant to be before the world told you otherwise. Gemini, Mercury also governs the nervous system, and during this time, Your body will become a barometer for truth. When a thought enters your mind, observe how your body reacts. If your chest tightens or your stomach churns, that is not inspiration. That is a warning. And sometimes the most spiritual act is learning to differentiate between intuition and inherited fear. Create space for quiet, even 5 minutes a day. No podcasts, no texting, just breath, just you. Because in that stillness, the real voice, your voice, returns. The one that says, "You're not too late. You're allowed to outgrow them. You don't need everyone's permission to be happy." Gemini, this isn't just about avoiding a bad choice. This is about reclaiming your inner authority. You were born with a quicksilver mind, yes, but also with a golden soul. And in moments like this, the soul must lead. Mercury may bring the message, but it is the heart that must decide if the message is worth receiving. So I ask you, if you stopped listening to the voices of fear, who would you become? Because the only thing louder than the voice of doubt should be the voice of destiny. Chapter 3. The Illusion of Options, When Too Many Doors Led Nowhere. Gemini, your gift is movement. Of thought, of emotion, of energy. You are the traveler of the zodiac, both in body and in mind. But in this moment, the universe is not rewarding movement, it's testing meaning. And here lies the paradox. Your mind thrives in choice. But this month, your abundance of options might actually be the trap. Not all open doors are invitations. Some are distractions. Some are cleverly disguised exits that take you further from yourself. You see, Mercury, your cosmic guide, is moving through a charged corridor, forming a tense square with Neptune while brushing past the shadow of Pluto. This alignment creates a strange distortion field around your choices. Suddenly, things that used to be clear, your yes, your no, your not now, blur together into a fog of maybe. And Gemini, maybe is your most dangerous drug. Let me explain. For most people, indecision is a pause. But for you, indecision is a performance, an elaborate internal debate where every argument feels equally compelling. Your mind becomes a courtroom where every idea defends itself brilliantly. But someone still has to deliver the verdict. I remember working with Janine, a 45-year-old Gemini software consultant from Oregon. She'd received 3 job offers in the span of 2 weeks. On paper, they were all excellent. One offered flexibility. One offered prestige. The third, purpose. She had a spreadsheet. She had pros and cons lists. She consulted her tarot, her therapist, her friends. And then she called me. "I'm paralyzed," she confessed. "What if I choose wrong and waste years? What if I pass something better just around the corner?" Her real fear? Not failure. Finality. Gemini, your shadow isn't failure. It's the idea that one choice will close all other possibilities. But in avoiding decisions, you often create the very outcome you feared: stagnation. What the stars are whispering now is this. Every time you delay because of fear, you create energetic clutter. Doors remain half open. Energetic cords remain tangled. Your field becomes heavy, like a room with too many unfinished conversations. And in that state, no new clarity can enter. Mercury is asking you to simplify, not with logic, with alignment. You don't need more data. You need deeper stillness. Because if you drop into your body, into the wisdom beneath your thoughts, you'll feel it. That one option that expands you. The one that feels like freedom, even if it's also terrifying. The truth is, Gemini, not all your options are real. Some are echoes, remnants of past selves that no longer fit. They may look good on the outside, but they carry the energy of a lesson already learned. Ask yourself, which of these paths feels like repetition disguised as opportunity? Which option excites my ego but drains my spirit? If I knew nothing about prestige or appearances, what would I choose? And perhaps the deepest, which door would I walk through if I knew I could never return to the others? There's something sacred about making a choice you can't undo. It humbles the mind and initiates the soul. In astrology, this is the power of the North Node, a pull towards your higher calling that often requires releasing all your clever plans. And here's something few will tell you. Your destiny doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to commit. When Mercury is clouded, clarity is not found in the mind. It's found in the body, the heart, the gut. Your nervous system is your compass right now. If thinking about something makes you feel smaller, tighter, confused, that's not your path. But if an idea scares you and somehow makes you feel more alive, lean in. You're being called to graduate from analysis to embodiment. There will always be another door, another path, another offer. But not every offer respects your evolution. Some tempt you back into old dynamics simply because they know your pattern, to stay in motion instead of committing to becoming. Don't just choose the shinier door. Choose the one that aligns with who you're becoming. Gemini, this is the time to prove that your freedom doesn't come from avoiding commitment. It comes from choosing powerfully, then moving with trust. There is no perfect path, only the one that calls your soul into the next version of itself. This is your moment. Choose. Chapter 4. The Crossroads of Transformation, Embracing the Unknown. Gemini, here you stand at the threshold of transformation, a place where every decision, every pause, every seemingly ordinary moment harbors the potential to change the course of your life. With Mercury as both your guide and your mirror, you are called to transition from the patterns of your past into a realm defined by the unseen, where intuition and honest risk converge. In this phase, the cosmos has turned the spotlight on your ability to evolve. Mercury's ceaseless motion now interacts with the transformative power of Pluto, stirring a potent mix of deep-seated emotions and cognitive breakthroughs. The energies at play are not merely pushing for a change in activity or thought. They are demanding a metamorphosis of your very essence. Every conversation you have, every new contact you entertain, is imbued with hidden possibility. It is as though the universe is gently coercing you to let go of what no longer serves you and to embrace the mystery of what lies ahead. Consider the story of Marcus, a seasoned Gemini executive from New York. For years, he had carved out a comfortable niche in his career, meticulously building networks and making decisions based solely on logic and market trends. When an unexpected opportunity to venture into a startup emerged, his usual quick mind was overwhelmed by an unfamiliar stirring, a deep, unspoken call to take a leap that defied conventional wisdom. Marcus hesitated at first, his logical side weighing risk against reward, while his intuitive side urged him toward the transformative path. The internal conflict was palpable. His body reacted with tension, and his mind began to cycle through doubts he had long thought buried. In that quiet moment of reckoning, Marcus learned that embracing the unknown required more than intellectual calculation. It required a full surrender to the process of transformation. In making his decision, he embraced a vulnerability he had long avoided, and what followed was a period of growth marked by both challenges and extraordinary breakthroughs. This is the essence of your current journey, Gemini. Your native duality, often celebrated as your greatest strength, now reveals its hidden lesson, the power of integration. It is not enough to consider both sides of an idea or a possibility. The true gift lies in merging them, to step forward with a decision that honors both the analytical and the intuitive facets of your being. When Mercury's swift energy meets Pluto's deep call for rebirth, you are urged to dismantle old belief systems, to confront shadows you have long ignored, and to emerge with a clarity that redefines your future. At this crossroads, every decision feels charged with significance. It is as though you are standing before an elaborate array of doors, each one leading to a different version of yourself. Some of these doors are framed in the familiar, constructed from the comfort of your past experiences. Others, however, are veiled in uncertainty and beckon you with a promise of reinvention. And as always, the art of discernment is crucial. Which door will lead you to a richer, more authentic existence? This phase is not merely about choosing between options. It is about internal alchemy. It is the moment when you are invited to distill the myriad voices within you into one clear, resonant call. The practice of meditation, introspection, and reflective journaling can serve as your alchemical tools. Take a moment each day to sit quietly with yourself. In that silence, Allow your heart to speak what your mind cannot articulate. Notice the subtle differences in your energy as you consider each possibility. That gentle pull, that slight change in your posture or in the rhythm of your breathing, is your body's language speaking to you in the language of transformation. Gemini, your journey at this crossroads is both an invitation and a challenge. The invitation is to become fully aware of the power you hold when you make decisions that are both informed and inspired. The challenge is to trust that, in the midst of uncertainty, there is a deeper order at work. You are not alone in this process. The cosmic energies are aligned to support you, even if the path ahead seems shrouded in fog. The wisdom of the stars tells you that this period of transformation is temporary yet profound. Once you dare to step into the unknown, the benefits will ripple through every aspect of your life. Your relationships, career, and personal growth will be redefined. Trust that each step forward, even if it seems hesitant at first, is a declaration of your willingness to evolve. Now, reflect on this. If you were to embrace the uncertainty as a necessary part of your growth, what aspects of your life would you be willing to risk transforming? Remember, Gemini, the only failure is not daring to live. In these pivotal moments, the real triumph is not in the perfection of the decision, but in the courage to choose wholeheartedly and move forward with integrity. Take this moment to honor your journey. Stand at the crossroads, breathe deeply, and step forward with the assurance that your inner wisdom, refined through years of experience and tempered by life's challenges, will guide you home. Chapter 5. The Soul's Voice, Choosing Integrity Over Image. Gemini, if there's one thing you've mastered, it's the art of perception. You know how to read a room, shift your tone, tell people what they want to hear without losing your charm. You've danced through conversations like a poet, quick, fluid, magnetic. But beneath that gifted tongue and agile intellect lies a deeper question that now demands your attention. When the masks fall away, who are you really speaking for? This is where your current cosmic test becomes personal. It's no longer about which job you'll take, which lover you'll entertain, or which city you'll move to. The question has become one of soul integrity. Can you look yourself in the mirror? Not the polished image others see, but the raw, sacred truth underneath, and say, I chose what was right, even when it cost me approval, because that is the final fork in the road. Mercury, your ruler, is crossing sacred lines in the sky, tapping into Pluto's realm of shadow and Saturn's domain of consequence. This isn't surface astrology. This is karmic astrology. The choices you make now don't just affect your week. They ripple into your next 7 years, into the way you feel about yourself when the applause fades, into the parts of your life only you and God will ever see. You may feel it in your body, an ache in your chest, a restlessness at night. There's a dissonance between the life you've built and the truth that's been whispering underneath it. You may be surrounded by people who love the version of you that keeps the peace, plays along, entertains. But what happens when that version no longer fits? When it becomes a costume that suffocates instead of protects? Let me share the story of Elaine, a 67-year-old Gemini woman who had spent most of her adult life playing roles. Perfect wife, eloquent hostess, supportive mother. She was admired, even envied. But in the quiet corners of her days, she wrote poetry no one knew about. Her words were fierce, untamed, vulnerable. They told of dreams she had buried, questions she was never allowed to ask, truths she wasn't sure the world would forgive. When her husband passed and her children moved away, she faced a void. At first, it was terrifying. But then something miraculous happened. The silence gave her space to hear herself. Maybe for the first time. She published her poems, started speaking at women's retreats. And when someone asked her if she regretted waiting so long, she smiled and said, I didn't wait. I was becoming. Gemini, that's the energy around you now. You're not just making choices. You're becoming someone. And that someone isn't defined by how many people approve or how perfectly you explain yourself. That someone is built in silence, forged in honesty, and revealed in the way you live when no one is watching. Astrologically, the universe is granting you rare access to your own inner truth. It's like the veil has thinned. The dreams you're having, the signs you're seeing, the conversations that stir something primal in you. These aren't accidents. They are soul nudges, reminders of a destiny you're still writing. But there's a catch. This time, you can't outsource the decision. Not to your friends. Not to your favorite podcast. Not even to the stars. This is your choice to make. And you already know what the right choice is. You've known for a while. It's just that the cost of choosing it has felt too high. But let me tell you the truth, Gemini. The cost of not choosing it is even higher. Because if you betray your soul's voice now, if you choose based on image, fear, or obligation, you may maintain the status quo. But you'll begin to dim. Slowly, quietly, until one day you forget the sound of your own voice. And that, my love, is the true tragedy. Not failure. Forgetting. So, what would it look like to choose integrity over image? To say no to something that flatters your ego but drains your soul? To admit you're tired of performing and ready to live? To trust that your real self is more magnetic than any persona you've ever worn? Mercury is not just your mind now, it is your mirror. And it reflects back everything that is ready to be released. The personas, the compromises, the quiet betrayals you made just to be accepted. Let them go. You don't need them anymore. Because real balance isn't found in keeping all things stable, it's found in knowing what's worth holding on to. So I ask you, Gemini, when this chapter of your life is read back to you by the voice of your future self, will you be proud of what you chose? Will you be able to say, I was true, I was brave, I chose what aligned, not what impressed? If the answer is yes, then know this. You've already won. Conclusion: the power of one honest choice. Gemini, after everything you've heard, I want you to know this. You're not being punished with pressure. You're being entrusted with power. The universe sees your potential. It knows the labyrinth of your mind, the brilliance of your questions, and the burden of always being the one who understands both sides. But now it's not about understanding. It's about deciding. There's no need to rush, but there is a need to choose. Because indecision is a decision too, one that keeps you stuck in loops you were born to outgrow. This isn't just about what job you'll take, who you'll trust, or where you'll go. This is about what kind of life you're willing to live when no one's watching. Are you choosing out of fear, or from truth? Are you shrinking to stay liked, or rising to be real? Remember, your soul didn't come here to perform, it came here to evolve. So take a moment, breathe, and ask yourself, what would my higher self do right now? Because Gemini, the right choice may not earn applause, but it will earn peace. And peace is the beginning of everything you've truly wanted. Now, if this message stirred something in you, if you've been feeling like life is asking you to wake up, to step up, this is your moment. Like this video if you're ready to stop doubting and start choosing. Subscribe to Esoteric Wisdom if you're on a soul journey and want guidance aligned with the stars. And share in the comments, what decision have you been avoiding? And what would happen if you faced it with truth instead of fear? Let this be the beginning of your realignment. You are not lost. You are being rerouted toward your most authentic self. So tell me, Gemini, what will you choose?